like a bad reaction. I guess I've just seen like creators that I know or that I follow like get a lot of hate for putting music on like Sound.xyz, for example, and I don't understand it.
Hi, Sadie. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm great. We chatted about 10 months ago. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, yeah, you had Biblical out or it was about to come out. I can't quite remember. But it was around
Yeah,
that time.
yeah, I think it had just come out, unless I'm wrong. But yeah, it was around that first release.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to find out what you've been up to.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here.
Sweet. So again, I'm Adam, and it's about you and your journey in music. We already kind of really got into your backstory in the last interview, so people can go back and watch that. But just a quick refresher, you were born and raised in Winnipeg, is that what I remember?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What was that like? Tell me about that again real quick. Cold, I
Um,
imagine.
I think last time I kind of said how like everyone I knew was in a band because it's so cold there for so much of the year that like everyone is kind of has to become a shut-in.
Sure.
So yeah, I worked on music really from a young age. Obviously, like with winter being literally 10 months of the year, essentially. I just was in like a lot of music lessons and everything, but I was always very antsy. Like it was hard for me to like stick with it, to practice. Like I really just wanted to like do the thing. I always wanted to be able to play enough chords to write a song or just like be able to accompany myself. So it was looking back on it, I wish I had more conviction to like rehearse because I am like less technically skilled, I would say, um but yeah, I was in all kinds of music lessons growing up.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of I do remember you saying that you just use like instruments and stuff as kind of like a vehicle to write. You always want to write your own songs, right?
Exactly. And basically, I went from like writing poetry a lot to once I could play an instrument, I was able to songwrite. So, yeah, I didn't really think about doing that professionally growing up where I did because I just didn't see a lot of people doing it professionally or like at a level that I maybe like would have
Hmm.
desired to. But I just didn't really think that was like within the realm of possibility. So, but yeah, I was always working on music and poetry and yeah,
And then eventually got to LA.
exactly. I blinked and I'm here.
Well, yeah, I kind of want to recap that a little bit. Your journey to then getting to Los Angeles. I do remember you saying that you were sick or you had cancer or you're cancer survivor, correct?
Yes, that did happen. So that kind of like reset a lot of things for me, I guess, because I kind of had to really evaluate what I wanted to do moving forward. I wasn't really able to just like pick up what I had been doing before, which was just literally going to university and like working. So
That's when you
yeah,
got really sick. Was it when you were out of high school and into university?
like literally immediately out of high school, like
Oh my
barely out of
gosh.
high school. So yeah, I kind of in recovery like there was like an awkward point where I was like well enough that I was bored, but I wasn't physically well enough to like go out into the world and do a lot. So
Hmm.
I ended up writing and just playing guitar and everything, like really isolated, I would say.
Yeah, I
And then
bet.
as coming out of that, I would just play friends or people that I had met, like just like little songs I had written in my room. And just by doing that in like different social settings, I just met people that I connected with and that had been working in the industry in the city I was living in Winnipeg. And they too were brand new to the industry. And yeah, basically that is still my current manager. So whenever people ask for advice
Wow.
about management, I'm like, just find people like that you can grow with
Hmm.
because that's proven to be like great.
Yeah, huge for you, obviously. I mean, wow. You said there's a lot of people in Winnipeg or your area at least that were musicians because everyone's stuck inside for so long. Was
Exactly.
there a pretty big scene there? Like, were you in? I can't remember if you played in a band or like you'd go out and see other local musicians play. Did you kind of have like a crew or a clique of people that you spent a lot of time with?
Yeah, there was a good music scene in Winnipeg. I was in a band. I played shows. I did like solo shows, like acoustic shows, but I would say like I never felt like I was part of the scene or a scene in my city. And there were like, I don't know, I don't want to say it was cliquey, but oddly, like when I came to LA, I was able to find more people that I could connect with, and I felt more of a part of whatever scene. I met people
Mhm.
that I just could collaborate with and work with, and I just never felt that sense of community, I guess, in my own city, which I'm not putting that on the city. I don't know what it was. Like, I just feel
Right.
like
Yeah.
I just
Just
never
what
found
your experience was that.
yeah, exactly. I just never found like my like larger community that I could kind of like, yeah, just
Mhm.
creatively collaborate with. Like beyond, obviously, I was in a band, but for me, like that had been like the only experience I had, like in a band making music. I feel like everyone around me had like, been in bands since they were like 12 and like done all kinds of things and done all kinds of tours. And I was just like, yeah, I just never felt like I was super part of the music scene, I guess, in that city.
Okay. And then you tell me about getting this manager. I think we spoke a little bit about it last time because that's what eventually brought you to Los Angeles. Is that what I remember? Or
Yeah, so basically my team obviously throughout the years worked with different artists. I wasn't the only artist that my current manager, well, I always say it sounds so pretentious, but I have three managers now.
nice.
They work together. I've known them all for
In
years at
case
this
you
point.
don't like the advice of the first one.
Just like down the line.
Yeah.
Um, but the one manager is who I've known for many years. So he obviously represented other people, and some of his other clients were getting interest from major labels, doing more in Los Angeles. So I just basically started coming out to Los Angeles to try and do songwriting sessions, just kind of see what I could do out here, who I could meet. Like, was I going to work on other people's projects? Was anyone interested in working with me? Like, I just kind of came out here because I knew all the opportunity was here. My team was meeting different people and connecting with different people. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to see what was up. And then as soon as I came out here, like one time, I was like, oh my gosh, like I just feel like I'm missing a
Yeah.
world of different opportunities and people that I can meet. So going from like, I mean, everyone calls Winnipeg a small town, but it really is like close to a million or over a million people now. But going from that to like coming to Los Angeles and just like there's endless people you can meet. You can go out
There's
every
like
night, meet
12
somebody new that you
million
could.
plus or something.
Exactly. So I always joked before I moved, I'm like, oh my God, 12 million people. Like, I'm going to have 12 boyfriends at least. Like,
I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no,
Oh,
that's my comment.
oh, I was gonna say, like coming out to LA for the first time. I mean, you had obviously representation, and they're what trying to set you up with writing sessions or put you in rooms with people. I would imagine that's still
Yeah.
got to be a hard thing. I mean, it's not like you came out here, or maybe it was, and you come out to LA and you're in this one writing session, and then it's like it goes great, and then but now there's you there it's not like your whole schedule's booked like Monday through Friday, you have different people that you're writing with all the time, right? I mean, you have to kind of build that up. Was that hard to do?
It was. And I think that's like something that I've learned coming out here, moving out here. Like, you always think, like, oh, if you have a team in place or you sign a deal or anything, like things are just going to like become easier or like
Mhm.
people are just going to like make something happen. But really, it's like, you you really are your own. You're just advocating for your own career, like at all points of the thing.
Right.
And even though my manager had been connecting with people, it was all based on other artists that he was working with. So that doesn't just like copy paste over. So like the sessions that I was going into, like they were like cold calling vibes. Like we would just email people demos of mine and just ask if they wanted to work. And a lot of times it was so many people that like other artists that they represented hadn't worked with or just people I might be interested in working with and just took a chance and sent an email. So obviously a lot of those didn't pan out. And then, there's people that are like, sure, hey, come by. And then I kind of after working with people on other people's projects, the producers, writers, whoever I like really had a great creative connection with or bonded with more, just eventually were interested in what I was doing creatively because that's just kind of like the natural
Right.
progression, I guess. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
because you're
yeah,
going into this like blind date situation, right? And you could go in there and it could be awkward or it doesn't work out or it can really work out and it's like, oh, we should continue to do this or not, right? And
yeah,
then I bet a lot of that they always say, you know, you hear so many no's, and I guess a lot of that can come down to just emailing people and you're not hearing back, but then you finally get what a couple of responses and they're like, yeah, let's do this. And then maybe some of those work out and then you just kind of build. Is that kind of how you built out from there?
yeah, honestly, pretty much. And then the more people that you meet, you just kind of build out different
More and
networks
more
and people
groups,
that maybe
yeah.
invite you to certain sessions or people that like working with you. So you just end up doing whatever sessions they're doing. They just bring you into them. Like it's just, yeah, building that network out. I mean, it's still difficult. I would say like everyone told me like to co-write first and worry about your project later. And I had one mentor um tell me like, no, like that's backwards. Like you should be always working on your own creative and trying to release music and just like don't let that go. And that's proven to be like I've seen more successes with my own project than I had with co-writing. So I kind of had to like come to that realization. I was like, oh my God, did I just waste like 2 years of my life? But I think it's all, I don't know, the more I do, the more I kind of realize like nobody really knows what they're doing in the industry. And you just have to, sounds corny, but like just carve your own path. Like, and
Right.
nothing is a waste because
I mean, there's no formula for it, right? It's
on
like you don't
yourself.
it's not like you go to it's not like you're a doctor. It's like you go to school for this many years, you learn this, you do this, you're a student, and you're whatever, an intern or a resident, and then you get the job and that's it. It's like you could
Exactly.
do this forever and still never have a cut or a hit or a song,
Yeah, and I mean that is a scary reality. Like
right? I mean, yeah, it's so
that is really scary. So you have to just maintain that belief, which that's hard. I feel like it's oddly
mm,
harder in Los Angeles than when I was like removed from the thing because it becomes
mm,
less of a fantasy and more of like, oh, here it is in my face, and like it might just not happen. And so I have definitely struggled with that being here, but I don't know, there's just like something that keeps you going. I mean, I don't have a backup plan and I don't have any other passions. So I'm just like
right.
here I am.
This is it, right.
Like, yeah. I think there was
You
like
kind
I
of
think
need
Miley
that,
said,
I think, right?
yeah, Miley once said something like people are like, "Oh, what would you do if you weren't doing this?" And she basically was like, "I don't know, I'm bad at everything else." Like that's kind of how I feel. Like this is the option. I don't know what else. So,
Right, right. I interviewed somebody that said, uh, if you have a backup plan, if you have something to fall back on, you will. Like, you know, if you have this other thing that you're like, oh, well, I can always go back and do this. It's like you're probably going to go back and do that at one point or another.
yeah, it's like an odd thing because I feel like I could see how that could be true because like the temptation of like comfort because I feel like we
Right.
want to be comfortable as people like humans and it's so uncomfortable. Like that's how I would explain my time here in Los Angeles. I'm just uncomfortable all the time. Whether it's like,
Yeah. It's just
financially,
uncertain,
socially,
right? You don't know. Yeah. What's going to
uncertainty,
happen.
you're just pretty much always uncomfortable. So not for everyone.
Yeah. But I mean, the people that do it and keep going, a lot of people say, you know, if you just keep going forward and just keep going and keep going, something's bound to happen because so many people do fall back or they don't go all in, right, all the time. It's like, "Oh, I guess I do I best I can go back to my job at blah, 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 so I'm gonna do that. This has been too difficult." But if you're
Exactly.
like, "Let's just keep going. Let's just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving."
Exactly. Just don't stand still for too long.
Right, right, right.
Exactly.
Um, so you put out, Biblical last time we spoke, and from there, kinda tell me you won some songwriting contest, right, or like an art contest? Was this part of the new song or like
Yeah, so that was for my last single, Pretty Traumatized. So I've basically been exploring
okay.
Web3. and like those communities. And
Like the
yeah, to be
NFT
honest,
stuff?
like
Is that what Web3 is?
yes, exactly. NFTs, and now there are also like Web3 social platforms. There's like a Web3 Twitter, Web3 TikTok. So
Huh.
basically, the contest was run by Optimism, and they essentially just had a bunch of people enter different singles that they had put out on a Web3 platform. So I entered my last single because I've been releasing all of my music on DSPs, obviously, but also on Sound.xyz, which honestly has been such a positive experience for me. I've been able to connect with so many fans that I just wouldn't have connected with, and like more so than just people being like, "Oh, I like this song," like cool. I actually found more so like on Sound XYZ, all of the collectors and people that mint the music there are also like directly on Twitter. So I would see people, mint the song and then they would come right over to Twitter and I would just talk to them. So I felt like I was able to connect with people like so much better than I've been able to on other social platforms. And that I immediately was like, whoa, I love this because I want to talk to people and connect with them and like actually feel like there's some sense of community. And I mean, going back to what I said before, I think I've always like loved that with like certain bands that I was a fan of or artists, like, and I never felt like as a fan myself that I was like a part of any type of community like that. And so like building a community like that around music that I'm creating, like just seems like the best thing ever to me. So
No,
so
that's
yeah,
amazing. Well,
yeah, it
tell me
felt
about that. Like, so with the Web3 stuff. So do you put your song up as an NFT? Like, how does that work?
Um, I mean, it's simple, but it's also as complicated as you want to make it. So it's obviously like a lot of people it's controversial. I understand why, but I also don't understand why because I feel like artists are always advocating for, like how we don't get paid properly on streaming platforms.
Right.
Um, and then essentially, I'm taking the music that I've created and the art that we've created and putting it on this other platform where people are showing up and wanting to buy it. And for some reason that I don't, this part I don't understand, it makes like listeners sometimes really angry. I'm not sure why. Like, I think maybe there's like a lack of understanding of like exactly what it is, or yeah, I don't
Yeah, I'm
honestly like,
kind of confused.
fully
Do you mind explaining it, like, I guess, to the best of your ability to somebody who has
like
no concept of what you're talking about?
like a bad reaction. I guess I've just seen like creators that I know or that I follow like get a lot of hate for putting music on like Sound XYZ, for example, and I don't understand it because to me it's like there is a community of people here that want to support artists and they see a value in this being on this platform and they want to collect it and they believe that it will grow in value and they believe it's worth something. And I mean, as an artist, it's like, I mean, fantastic. Like, I'm not just
Right.
putting this out and you know what I mean? Like, I don't really understand the negative reactions, but I'm
I
also
don't
very
quite
confused.
understand it would either. It's like you're putting out something. If you were selling a painting and you put it up and somebody's like, "I'll give you $500 for that," and you're like, "Okay." I mean,
Right. I
but I guess I don't understand. So they can mint your song, meaning do they own the song, like publishing, or do they own like a portion?
I mean,
I don't.
people do all kinds of things, and so that's one of the exciting things about it is it's kind of like you can make it what you want to make it. And so far, I'm so new in the spaces that I just kind of was like, let me release over here on this platform as well.
Mhm.
And people have been interested in collecting the songs, so like they own that NFT of the song. So really, like it's just for me, I'm like, why would I not participate over here in these communities and yeah, see what happens. Like I feel like I'm so new in the spaces that I'm still figuring out like what's next, but I've
Yeah, but that's so
only
if somebody buys an NFT of your song, then is it what they own the digital version of it, or not
honestly
really?
like I don't even 100% understand. They
Oh,
own
okay.
they buy it and they get a download and they get like it's minted into their wallet. So like they own that song. Like they own a version of it and it's limited. So I don't like, it's not like anybody can just like the point is that it's supposed to have a value to it. So I've been doing limited drops. So like not everybody could go purchase the song. It would be like there's 11 available or there's 20 available or there's even 200 available, but like you'll never be able to buy an NFT of that song like ever again. So yeah, it's like it's
But
just
you
another
still own
space.
the copyright. Like you could put it up on
Yeah,
everywhere anyway. And are there songs that you
exactly.
only release to Web3, or do you release everything to everything?
So far I've done everything across DSPs, but I mean, like I said, people really you can kind of craft your own reality and world on
Yeah,
Web3.
that's
So I don't know
fascinating.
what else is
Okay.
moving forward. But yeah, a lot of people think it's silly, like, oh well, I'm paying for something that I could just go to Spotify and stream. And it's like, well, maybe you think it's silly, but it's proven to have a value to it and people want to support artists. So like again, like why would we not try to connect
Right.
with
Well,
people and
why would I not go buy a vinyl of a band's album that I could stream on Spotify? Right.
right. So it's kind of it's that's actually a great example. It's a similar thing. I just think it's like a digital platform, so people don't understand it. And of course, like, people are like, you could just screenshot an NFT, but like if you're a collector, like I have NFTs myself, like just artwork. And I mean, I see a value to it and it has a value to it. So
Right. I can
yeah,
buy
I just like
a
wanna
print of a Mona Lisa and put it up in my house. That doesn't mean I own the Mona Lisa.
right. So it's like it's the same thing. I think just because it's a digital platforms, people just don't
They're confused by it.
understand it. What I just find exciting is that it's brand new territory and there is so many endless possibilities to how to kind of like grow a community in those spaces. So, and there's options. We like you can do different things. And sometimes I feel like, the industry can feel a little antiquated and like you do this or you do that.
Right.
So it's just kind of exciting that there's a whole space to kind of explore and
No, I think
figure
it's
out.
fascinating. That's why I'm asking so many questions because I've had a couple other people on that have done that with their music. They put it up as NFTs, and I believe,
Mhm.
and you can do other cool stuff with it too. I mean, I think it was Kings of Leon or somebody did like a ticket, like you could pay X amount of dollars for like a lifetime ticket of theirs to their shows. Like, so if you bought the NFT for X amount of money, you would get like a front row, or you get like maybe a pit ticket or whatever to every single show that they ever play ever. You have like a guaranteed ticket that you can go in. So if you're the biggest fan of theirs and you travel around and follow them, that would hold a lot of value to someone that would buy that from you for even more money. Cause then it's like, well, I get to go to every show, and you might have bought it for $1,000 and you can sell it to some huge Kings of Leon fan for $10,000. You know, it's like there's value in things like that. It's a totally different, but it's a digital thing. Like you don't have a golden ticket on your wall. It's like it's a digital
Exactly.
piece.
And those are, to me, the things that are like exciting about it too, is like you can see who is collecting, you can see who the community is. Like, like, oh, this is the first person to ever support me, like
Right.
on chain. Like, you can like do things like that, like give people a lifetime ticket or anything like that. Whereas it's like if someone just is streaming me on Spotify, and I mean, Spotify is now trying to kind of like do things like that, where it's like the year end Spotify, it shows you like who the top listeners are. And if you're in this many, you get a special message and stuff. But I just feel like this is like that on steroids. So
Yeah, because there's
yeah.
no monetary value to getting a thing from Taylor Swift saying thanks for being your top fan.
Yeah, like that's lovely. But like
But
also it's cool to be able to like send people things or yeah, I don't know.
yeah, no,
I'm so fresh in the space, but I am so excited to yeah, get to plan and do things like that. And kind of like the possibilities are endless. So
that's amazing. And that's
I'm
kind of where it kicked off this new single, right? That's what you used it on. You put it up on there and it won that
excited.
contest.
Exactly. I put it out there first, actually, and then Optimism held the contest, so I entered that song because it was my most recent single. And to be honest, like because I'm so new in these spaces, like so many people entered. I want to say I could be so wrong. I think it was like 7,000 people in the music
Wow.
category. So I was like, oh my gosh, I almost fell over when I saw that I was like
The
selected, I was
winner.
like, there's no
Right.
way. I just feel like I felt like I'm like a baby here. So it was like honestly very, very nice to be recognized like so kindly.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was great.
That's exciting. Well, tell me about the song, and then you said that's your latest song, or do you have another one coming out,
Um,
or are we
yes, I have
still
another
chatting
coming
about
up
this
soon,
one?
but no release date yet.
Okay, so let's just talk about Pretty Traumatized. Tell me what the song's about and, all the details.
Yes. So Pretty Traumatized is the first record that I put out that's really kind of goes into some of my medical history and dives into what I've been through in that regard. And I hadn't really like touched it, I want to say, before these songs. And actually, like, if you've heard the record, it's like very bouncy and like
Yeah,
sounding.
I
So
like it.
when I first heard it back with like the content being what it was, like the lyrics, I actually like cried so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I just like making fun of myself? Like, this is like, I'm making like a mockery out of like what I've been through. Like, I've never really spoken on this. And now, like, this is the song I'm going to put out where I'm like laughing at it essentially. And I had like a whole spiral. And I sat with that for like 2 days and I was like, damn, I want to listen to it again. Like, the song's good. So I'm just like, okay, I love the song. And then I kind of just had to process that and like maybe not everything that we write about experiences that we've been through has to be so heavy and like have that weight to it. And I think that became like the magic of the song is like it is such a heavy, like dark idea.
Subject matter, yeah.
And yeah, so like the paradox is kind of what makes it interesting.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I kind of full spiraled the first time that I heard it back, like leaving the studio. So,
Wow,
but
yeah, it's like
I'm
when sorry, go ahead. I keep
Oh, I
cutting
was
you
just
off.
gonna say I'm happy that I went there and then it kind of like opened the door and I've written other records now. And the next song that's coming out is also like ties into the same themes of like what I've been through. So I think it's been like I don't want to say therapeutic. It's never therapeutic for me to write about bad things. Honestly, it's like kind of awful because you have to sort of relive it or like whatever. But when it comes out, it's like, okay, this came out. I love the song. I can kind of like put it over here and be like amazing, but I don't want to be like consumed with that either and like
Sure.
only write about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it just kind of reminds me of like, comedians that can make jokes on like traumas in their life where it's like they've gotten to the
Mhm.
point where, it's not funny, it's a traumatic thing, but it's funny in the way that they can laugh at it now too, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? It's like you turn this dark and terrible situation that you had to go through into like this popular, like upbeat thing, right? It's like you're
Right.
turning it on its head, kind
Right.
of.
And I think like while I was writing it in the studio, I just wasn't even really thinking about it, which is like I think kind of the beauty of it. Like I just wrote what felt natural. And obviously I felt like I wanted to write about that. So, and then when I kind of like sat for a minute, I was like, wait, like I shouldn't have done that. Like that's like so weird to talk about it so lightly. And like people are going to think I'm like making light of these things and other people are going through these things and are they going to hear it and like feel weird? And I'm just like, it's I think subconsciously, like I just let myself like take the weight of it off and just write something that I loved. So I think
Yeah.
now I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I couldn't have planned that better.
Yeah, and
Couldn't have
it's
planned it.
your experience. You went through it. If someone else
Yeah.
didn't go through that and they're like, "Oh, she's making light of this situation," it's like, well, yeah, that was you. You lived it. So if that's how you want to
Mhm.
process it and release it, then who cares what what anyone else
Right.
has to say about it? They weren't the one that had it that was going through what you went through. Of
I mean, true, but you know, everyone will have their opinions and that's kind of scary
course.
sometimes, but yeah, it's also just the nature of like, yeah, putting yourself out there at all, like in any aspect, in any industry. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'm
brave.
happy
I
that I
mean,
wrote it.
yeah,
Happy it's out in the world. And it has allowed, like, I mean, we're talking about it now. It's allowed more conversations. And I feel like it's something that happened to me that I really do not speak about. because I also like have this belief that if I talk about it and I like I don't want it to be like my identity, if that makes sense. But you also can't, like, it happened to me, you know, so I can't just like not address it when all of my songs and art is so personal. It just seems weird to like leave this big gap.
Mhm.
So yeah, but it is scary like mentioning it, and then it's like, you know, it's interesting, I guess, like that it's not something everyone's been through. So then
Well,
people ask about
it's
it
yeah,
and talk about
unique
it, and then
piece to your life. Right, right. I mean, it's
so it is scary, like bringing it into the mix because, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not like the most positive, it wasn't the most positive time in my life. So yeah,
you got through it and you're here and you processed it and you put out an awesome record. So,
exactly. I mean, I would say still processing it. I think that's like also something I kind of touch on that in my next single. Like,
mm,
it's so easy to like look at people and be like, oh, they went through this and like here they are. It's like that's so not how life is. Like
right.
I don't feel like I like came out the other side and like here I am. Like I don't feel like that at all, to be honest. So like
Mhm.
it's kind of funny too because when I talk about it, it's like, oh, it's all in the past, but it's like it's not. It doesn't really leave you these things. So I think talking about that is interesting to me because I don't hear a lot of people talk about that. It's usually like music is therapeutic, it helped me work through this thing, but I don't think that's like a realistic snapshot of like what actually happens to somebody when they are traumatized. So as light as the song is, I think it is important to talk about it.
Yeah, because it wasn't like you put the song out and you're like, okay, I don't have to think about that anymore.
I'm normal now.
Yeah, yeah, right. 100%.
Exactly. Still traumatized.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming back on and talking to me about this. Thank you so much, Sadie, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
I have one more question for you. I asked you this last time, but I'm going to ask again. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
I would have to go back and listen, but I think it's gonna be the same as before, which is
It doesn't
just
matter.
trust your gut, your instincts, your taste, because I feel like, especially being in LA, there's so many voices, opinions. You should do this, you should do that. This is cool right now. This isn't like I feel like your artistry is your taste and it's your instincts. So, as much as you can, just quiet the noise and be able to listen to yourself and not lose your taste because it's what makes us all unique.
Bringing it backward.